We're waiting for us to start him.
Hey, he's a fellow Red Raider to you. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Patrick Vondel on behalf of the San Antonio Family Association. I want to thank you for taking time to be here and to learn. We are having this professionally videographed so we can share with the public. So you won't be in it, it'll just be facing this way. You won't get any faces in it or anything like that. So it'll just be getting my ugly mug and anybody else who comes up here and speaks. So bear with us on that. But welcome to the San Antonio Family Association's presentation of Save Our Streets, Save San Pedro Avenue. Why San Pedro Avenue? It's the first street that's going to be fundamentally changed by the city of San Antonio and VIA. And so it's the start of another 6 lines, and possibly more after that. So my name is Patrick Vondolan, one of the board members of the San Antonio Family Association, Mike Dunuff, president of the San Antonio Family Association, Danny Petrie, one of the board members, and our attorney, Jared Navar, who we brought in from Houston. So welcome to them, and we're glad you're here. We had a presentation this morning that was very good, and I think you're going to benefit because not only is this timely information, it's time-sensitive information. Time-sensitive in the fact that we're in a window of time, we have to act, or whatever's coming to San Pedro is going to be a done deal. There's going to be no response available. So time is of the essence. As of June 13th, which happens to be the anniversary of the first Mass celebrated on June 13, 1691, where San Antonio got its name. The first Mass celebrated on the banks of San Antonio River. So therefore, the city became named San Antonio. That VIA had its groundbreaking officially. They might have gone and used some shovels and turned some dirt, but there's been no actual real construction. But because of that, they started a timeline that we're on now that makes this information that's time sensitive to be very timely as well. And so we have to act now if we're going to do anything. So we're going to go through a few things that might be background information, and then let our attorney speak, and we'll have some follow-up on what we can do to help stop this. We start all of our meetings off in prayer, and so let's ask the one triune God to bless us in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Blessed are they who observe justice, who do righteousness at all times. Psalm 106:3, many of you might know. We stand before you, Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of Father and Son. You desire justice for all, enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful to all that is true. As we gather in your name, may we temper justice with love, so that all our decisions may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. We ask this of you who live and reign with the Father and the Son, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Okay, so let me start by asking a couple questions. One, has everybody heard of the Green Line Project? Everybody familiar with it? Yes. Have some background on it, because I won't take time to go through details if we don't need to. I will speak through them though. But some of the rhetorical questions just in beginning to, as we go through this process and as Jared presents the legalese of what we're facing, just think about how do you get to work? How do you get to school, to church? How did you get here? Did you take a bus? You might take a bus to get here? Okay. If VIA buses were more frequent and reliable, would you want to ride the VIA bus with free Wi-Fi instead of drive your own vehicle? Think about that. If you own property on one of the bus rapid transit lines, would you want your property or business impeded by potential temporary or permanent eminent domain claims made by VIA or the city of San Antonio? I think most of us would not. So what are your rights? You have rights to migrate. We dealt with this with Migrant Resource Center. And people have a right to migrate, don't they? Countries have a right, duty, and obligation to protect its borders for the benefit of the people that already live there. So there's a balance there between individual rights and the rights of the community, especially ones that are already there. In this case, the right to migrate or move about for us. We're all citizens of the United States of America and residents of San Antonio, Bexar County, or their surrounding. We're all Texans, so you have a right to move. Well, the Texas Constitution actually says you have to navigate along rivers and streams. You have a public right and duty as part of the freedom of movement, and so you have the same with right-of-ways, with public ways, streets. Do Texans have private property rights? You're darn right we do. You remember probably stories of people, cattle rustlers being hung in part because it's private property. You have the same with your land, and so you can go through that and read about that on your own. But what's most important is property owners along San Pedro Avenue have already received demand letters from VIA through a contract with VIA on temporary access or permanent access to their property with easement request. And so most of these business owners are all impacted because they all have small parking lots. If you're driving up and down San Pedro, they're small and mid-sized businesses, and they don't have large parking lots. They're limited on their parking as it is. And so where did this all start? Well, it started before November 3, 2020, but on November 3, 2020, we had a ballot, Proposition 3 of them actually, that led to this situation. And the city of San Antonio had Proposition A, which was the renewal of pre-K for SA for another 8 years. Proposition B was for SA Ready to Work, a 1/8 cent sales tax here that would begin on January 1, 2021. It was approved by over 60%, unfortunately, but that 1/8 cent sales tax left the protection of the Edwards Aquifer and was transferred over to SA Ready to Work until December 31st of this year. And December 31st of this year then transfers on January 1 of 2026 to Advanced Rapid Transit, which is the next ballot proposition that was made for the Advanced Transportation District, ATD. And it was passed as well, over 60%. And that 1/8 cent sales tax that was going to SA Ready to Work, that's going there now, you can certainly argue whether or not that's money was spent, and there's plenty of evidence against that. But that 1/8 cent sales tax will be transferred to the ATD and take it to 3/8 cent sales tax. So just so you know, get a picture, a 1/8 cent sales tax, it will collect in revenue about $54 million a year in San Antonio. So when it goes to 3/8, is there a Red Raider in town that can help you with the math?
He's waving.
So you're talking about 164 million a year, and is what you're talking about, and collecting from going to 1/8 to 3/8. And this is merely to show you that through the sake of family, you have several entities. The San Antonio Family Association, with our 501c3 nonprofit, charitable nonprofit educational organization. We have a PAC, a political action committee as well, a general PAC called Friends of Safe Texas Family Action, that since before this came out on the ballot, we've been against it. This is not a fly-by-night opportunity for us. We've been against this since the beginning, since it was conceived without detail, and VIA is long on ideas and short on details. They have been forced to come out and give details now, but that's a big billboard we had that we drove around the city, encouraging people to vote against this. And just to show you that we've been involved in this for years. And this was the actual ballot initiative again, the language on the left side. And as you read that again, on that ATD, the three things that were passed on November 3rd, 2020, pre-K for SA, reapproved 8 more years. That's 1/8 cent sales tax. When it started in 2012, it was about $32 million per year in sales tax revenue. Makes sense. Now it's up to 54 and growing from there. SA Ready to Work came into being as a result on Proposition B, 1/8 cent sales tax. So once you get to 100 million, is basically the limit that they will have, and they will take that 1/8 cent sales tax instead of reducing your sales taxes, they'll just transfer to another project that they want to do. And this has been the case time and again ever since Cheryl Scully became our city manager. And then again, 1/8 cent sales tax increase to 3/8 cent sales tax on January 1 this coming year. That's a picture of the former mayor hugging his wife on the night of the election. San Antonio Report said this was a referendum vote of approval for Ron Nuremberg. I'm not sure who would agree with that in this room, but nonetheless, we might wish to have him back before we get through with this mayor. This is a picture of the Green Line map from VIA. VIA's website is keepsamoving.com. Keepsamoving.com. Can we get this information? But it goes from the airport down Isom Road, over to San Pedro, and down San Pedro past downtown. 11.7 miles of dedicated bus lanes at least 2 lanes taken up, if not 3, like it is up here by 410. And what does that cost? $446 million was their estimate a year ago. I guarantee you that number's up almost $500 million. We did receive in the city of San Antonio did receive in almost $224 million of federal funds in January, just before President Trump was inaugurated from the previous presidential administration. We hope to get that recalled through this process, just so you know. If you don't know about your tax rates, here's a summary of them. You've got your property tax rate, which we're not here to talk about tonight, but we have had property tax protest seminars. And if you want, you can go to San Antonio Family Association's YouTube channel and find more information about that on how to protest your property taxes. Here's the sales and use tax that we're talking about here. And you can see that the Metropolitan Transit Authority and the Advanced Transportation District, you got pre-K for SA and SA Ready to Work all listed there. Obviously, SA Ready to Work, that 0.125% will go down to the ATD, where it's already at 0.25% right here. And you add those together, that becomes 0.375% of the sales tax. That's where they're going to get $164 million a year, starting January 1. You also have your hotel occupancy tax, which is at 18%, one of the largest and the highest in the state, I believe. This is a piece that we found in researching that I don't believe the city of San Antonio VA ever wanted to get out there. It shows 7 different lines of advanced rapid transit. So ART is what you'll hear the acronym a lot. ART, Advanced Rapid Transit, is all this is under. And this shows a map of their proposed lines. The red one here is the green line. And then this one right here, down Commerce, will be the silver line.
The red is green?
Yeah. Why they didn't color it the way they wanted to name it, I don't know. But that's what happened. And then what's really remarkable is if you go here, it's hard to see when you expand it, but right here, it says near term, which is 2021, 2025, it says BRT right here. BRT means bus rapid transit. What I don't think they ever intend to get out here is midterm, which is the next decade right here. Fredericksburg LRT, I think it says Commerce something LRT, and then San Pedro LRT. Anybody know what LRT stands for? Light Rail Transit. So they expose themselves, and what they're really, what we believe, and certainly I believe, is their long-term plans is to do nothing but what they did in 2015.
Mr. Gondolin, we outlawed light rail some time ago.
Yeah, well, we didn't outlaw light rail. We outlawed how you get there. So, why is LRT listed? We believe it's the long-term goal, is to take these dedicated bus lanes and turn them into light rail in the next decade. Why would that be? Well, we've seen VIA expand its size and scope and exceed its scope and mission. This is a news article by Andrew Dress for the San Antonio Report, where they VIA took over Scobie, and we're going to make it into a business development with a whole business environment here and different businesses leasing and bought this property that has been put on hold. But it just shows you the first example of how VIA, and that was November 2023, just shows you the first example of how VIA was expanding outside its scope of mission. VIA has a mission, and that is to provide public transportation, not to own property, develop business property, or develop multifamily housing. So this is a flyer Danny Petrie put together, and I just want to get the highlights real quick, just so we're on the same page. But the green line will reduce 2 interlane traffic lanes and remove the turning lane for a boarding platform. So it's 3 lanes. 2 plus 1 equals 3, even for Aggies. And bus riders will cross from the sides of the road to the middle road to board the bus on the platform. And then they're going to change the focus to synchronize traffic lights for bus priority. Meaning you're going to see a bus come up there in the top left up to a light, and they're going to get a green light to go before any of us. Because they might have to change lanes or something else in dealing with the size of the number of lanes that are there. One of the biggest things here is problem for drivers and individuals who go to shop along San Pedro or live along there is no more left turns. Haven't you ever take a left turn into a business? Absolutely. You'll have to go up to a stoplight, do a U-turn, and come back around. So you're gonna have extended driver times, you're gonna have a lot greater congestion because of fewer lanes, and you're gonna have more carbon emissions, which is interesting because all these people that are promoting the bus rapid transit are all people who tend to be environmental wackos, and they don't want you driving, but they're gonna make you drive more because you're gonna have to sit at a light instead of just making a left turn. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there's a greater distance for people to walk. I mean, some people struggle to walk as it is, much less walk in the middle of the street and in front of cars. And business homes will be more difficult to access. We do not know if there will be barriers for first responders. Will they be able to drive across, or will they have to go to the light themselves because of concrete embankments that will be in the middle when there's not a bus platform? So there's a lot of questions still out there whether or not police and fire will have to traverse over those or have to go around them themselves to respond to somebody, which could impact their response time. So we've seen other things in San Antonio where VIA has wasted money. Everybody's familiar with the Stone Oak VIA parking ride, right? It's sat empty, virtually empty, that was part of the 2017 bond, and it's sat empty for at least 5 years, if not more now, since it's been built. That's almost a $40 million project. And then we got, of course, the Green Line coming up here, and Mike's going to talk about the combination between the Green Line and Silver Line, how much they cost, compared to Project Marvel. We've got Project Marvel coming by the way, in lots more ways, but potentially. But a reduction of your freedoms, and Jerry will be the first to tell you as the attorney, based on what they're doing, it looks like one could perceive that it's social engineering and what they're trying to do. But this is a picture, I want to show you this picture where the bus is actually, on the VIA website, is actually changing lanes. They've got a green light to go, with the traffic over here sitting, having to wait for the bus to take a move left from the right lane to the left lane. This is obviously a mock-up. You can see part of the city, the pyramid building, but it's part of what they imagine San Pedro will look like after they get through spending $464+ million.
Of your money.
Of your money. There's a picture of the bus. The future of transit starts now. They've got their timeline. Some fast facts, again, 11.7 miles, $32 million per mile based on their numbers. $32 million per mile. 26 new bus stations, all at $1.5 million plus each. All for they say they're going to build a base of people who want to ride the bus based on frequency, 10-minute frequencies on weekdays, 15-minute frequencies on weekends, so that people can count on the buses. Does anybody ride the bus in here now? Jack, are the buses reliable today? You got a schedule, don't you? You have a schedule, and they basically go by the schedule, right?
I'm lucky if they're only 10 minutes late.
Okay. So if they only improve their frequency and their reliability today, does it really require a $464 million investment to do that? Or just to hold by their schedules? So I think we'd all agree that they're putting the cart before the horse here. One of the biggest things that I think says that VIA has done a study, and they know the numbers. They know that they're going to drive traffic off of San Pedro Avenue and force them on the west side to Blanco and I-10, and on the east side of McCullough and 281. Yeah. And to Bouncy McCullough, like to call it, or because I bounce up and down going down that road. But about 200, they anticipate to shift routes. That's 16% of the 1275. Well, that's business. That's potential business cost to the San Pedro business owners, but that's more likely residents who know to avoid San Pedro now to move. It costs them more gas, depending on where they live, potentially. But they know they're going to drive traffic off of San Pedro Avenue.
Well, all the traffic is going to be diverted into the neighborhoods.
That's right.
And that's horrible.
So what businesses will VIA connect that it couldn't connect already today, just by being more reliable and have more frequency today that doesn't cost $464 million capital cost? But that's their plan, their motto, a plan to connect people to jobs and opportunities. Most of the businesses that we know are all small mom and pop businesses and mid-sized businesses. They're not large businesses. The biggest large employer is downtown San Antonio, where most people from SA Ready the workforce is are employing most of the people that graduate from there, and so there's not a huge employer along San Pedro Avenue anymore, and hasn't been. But these are some of their goals and what they think, and 72% of VIA riders are employed. I don't know that I agree with that, but that's their numbers. Their other numbers on their projections is by 2040 there will be 3 million people in San Antonio, and if that is correct, we hope they're not all Californians, right? I would venture to say that at least half of them will be Texans, just have moved here from another city and moved to San Antonio. And if they're like the rest of us, all of us drove our own vehicle, and most of them would be driving their own vehicle to riding a bus. So they're projecting numbers, throwing them out there, is that people's going to use the park and ride in Stone Oak. They're going to use the bus transit system because they've moved to San Antonio. All of a sudden, we're going to ride public transportation. Doesn't seem to make complete sense. Do we need a capital improvement of $446 million to increase bus frequency? Well, they say they do because a longer wait currently is less interest. And they say because you have to wait 10 minutes at a bus stop or something already, you're going to lose ridership. Well, I think the people who plan on riding a bus are going to ride the bus. And so their assertion, again, faster connections, shorter travel time will be important because they're going to have 26 bus stations along 11 miles, each with a bus. So two things already. They've already secured the federal funding right before Trump was inaugurated, and there's going to support workforce training. Well, just so you know that 1 cent sales tax that SA Ready to Work has been collecting $54 million a year for 4.5 years now has produced less than 200 trained people. So it's a lot of money. So I think we have plenty of evidence here where there's been lots of money being thrown at projects that might be good ideas, but lack credibility and lack evidentiary support that they're productive and useful for the people's money. We happen to find this document through somebody that sent it to us, and thanks for the guy who directed us to us. But this is the City of San Antonio's study of the SA corridors, transit supportive land use. So we're going to see a couple things real quick on their own numbers of why, what their thinking behind this. Just point to you two things real quick on this one. Over the left, the map shows transit supportiveness of zones as they are currently mapped. Note that the green line is this line right here. Nice. The transit supportive, least transit supportive is 1, purple. The most supportive is red, 10. Or purplish red, dark magenta, I guess. But 1, do you see anything but light purple along the green line? And 1 means least supportive, least transit supportive, 10 means most transit supportive. In San Antonio's own documents, they are showing that there's no support, or very little support, for the green line in San Antonio, Texas, along San Pedro Avenue. So why the impetus to spend this kind of money on an area that they've already studied, and there's little support for the transit? We didn't make this up. This is their own information. This one right here, we just want to show you that they have other plans on corridors. You can see them right there. And then all of this comes with the expansion of the scope of VIA. If you'll pay attention to the third bullet point over there, is affordable housing. And it says strategies tailored to existing market strength. These may include tools for affordable housing preservation and production of new units and mixed income projects. Next slide. Oh, I thought it was going to be the next one. But anyway, so the core focus is on multifamily and bus priority for affordable housing. They're going to grow affordable housing. So why affordable housing? The city of San Antonio has been prevented by the state of Texas to annex any more property, any more land. The only way the city of San Antonio can grow is through density. That means infill, what they call infill, I-N-F-I-L-L. infill development zones and to build density, which not being a dense city saved us during COVID. Being spread out saved us, whereas New York suffered more because they're so dense. But the only way to grow the tax base in San Antonio is now to grow up and replace one single-family residence with a multifamily building. And so this is one of the things the city created, a department created, actually under the sponsorship of Mark White, and it was passed by council. It's called transit-oriented development. And this is a conduit between the city and VIA. But every one of those 26 bus stops will be zoned through transit-oriented development, and the radius of that will be 250 feet and or a quarter mile from the station. So every one of these will have that, and everybody will be subject to zoning within the transit-oriented development on that, from that center point, the access point being this bus stop itself. With all the studies they've done, what I thought was really interesting was that here, in the future, they're waiving all traffic impact analysis requirements in TOD districts. Why would that be? It's incongruent with the rest of what they usually do in zoning, and unless it was specifically with the intent to extend IDZ station areas. That's infill development zone again. That's where they are working towards density, increasing density. So transit will become the primary focus of San Antonio and has been for 12 years. And this is just proof of it right here. This is via investments as of August 2016. The red line with public transit at its core is that, and increased federal funding, state funding focused on capital investments, and increased local funding, which we've just done through sales tax. And that's what Jared's going to address on whether the city is doing it legally or illegally. As of June 13th, as I mentioned, this is a press release by VIA that they broke ground. We believe not only is it marketing, but it's also a legal maneuver to start a time clock before we can respond, because the last ditch effort to stop this, the only way to stop it, is a lawsuit. And to hold them accountable. So the question becomes, what, if any, remedies are there to save your business and neighborhood? So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our attorney. Just a little background, Jared is originally from Corpus Christi, a Corpus Christi native, now lives in Houston with his wife and children, and drove here today to be with us. He's represented us we have different entities I mentioned. He started our very first case was in 2012 against the Texas Ethics Commission, which we won. And then several other cases since then, all which we won, but the most noteworthy is in 2015. This apropos to this case. In 2015, he represented the San Antonio Family Association, the Firemen, and the Responsible Government Coalition, and a couple other organizations banded together to fight the city's attempt for the 3-mile track, light rail track down Broadway. The 3 miles for $888 million. Jared is the attorney we brought in to represent us and fight the city of San Antonio, which we won. So with that, please welcome Jared Nabor.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm gonna, like you said, I'm gonna explain why I believe this, funding plan that San Antonio has devised, and how they're using the sales tax increases to pay for this project violates state law and even the city's own charter, and what that gives us legally. So, about a year ago, the city had meetings where they approved this, what's called an interlocal agreement between the city and VIA. So as Patrick said, in 2020 they had an election. The voters approved and increased the sales tax by 1/8 of 1% to go to VIA for this project. But under state law, and after that happened, about a year ago, the city was talking about an interlocal agreement with VIA, because to transfer its portion of those increased taxes back to VIA. Because the transportation code that covers this, state law says that when you have an advanced transportation district, which VIA is, for a project like this, any increase in the sales tax, the participating jurisdictions are entitled to 25% of the increase in the tax. So in other words, VIA collects the sales tax, but they're required under state law to send 25% of that 1/8 increase to the city of San Antonio, which the city of San Antonio, government, the city council would decide how to spend it within the city. And then the transportation code requires them to spend it on transportation improvements, basically, but within the city of San Antonio. So it's a way, if you look at the whole scheme in the transportation code, it's very clear that what the legislature was doing was saying, you can have these advanced transportation districts, but if you increase the taxes, a portion of it must go to each participating jurisdiction as a way to, I think, it's a way to maintain some local control and accountability through your local political representatives for how the increased taxes are spent, for at least 25% of it, right? But what happened last year is they executed this agreement with VIA, the city council, where they agreed to send back to VIA the 25% of the increased sales tax that's statutorily required to go to the city of San Antonio. So even though state law says the 25% back to the taxpayers, basically to spend in the city council's discretion, the city council is basically abdicating its responsibility, punting those funds back to the unelected VIA board to spend in VIA's discretion. They're abdicating their political authority to decide how that portion of the funds are spent. Yes,
Well,
sir.
Mr. Jarrett, why couldn't the city council say, well, state of Texas, you're requiring us to spend 25% on the city of San Antonio's transportation needs? Well, state of Texas, we are. We're going to send it to our transportation agency called VIA, and it is going to improve our roads and our transportation system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Couldn't they, I mean, it's like a superfluous argument, but couldn't they theoretically try to use that?
No, it's not superfluous. I think they will try to argue that. The problem with it is that the transportation code, it contemplates transfers of money between the ATD and the local jurisdictions in the code, but it only contemplates them in one way. It only authorizes them, it authorizes VIA in this case to send money to the participating jurisdictions. It doesn't authorize the jurisdictions to send it back to VIA, or to send.
Like a kickback.
To send their money to VIA, right. So it seems clear, so I think, this is an issue of statutory construction. The courts have to construe the statute. What does the legislature mean? And there's an argument, there's a basic principle in this area where you say, if the legislature contemplated money transfers from one to the other, and we know they contemplated because they authorized it to some extent, but they only authorized it from VIA to the city. They didn't authorize it from the city to VIA, which means that it's prohibited for the city to send its money back to VIA. You see, because the legislature thought about this issue and they authorized it one way but not the other. So that's an argument of statutory construction, but why we would say the court should read this whole code. It seems clear that the intent, the purpose of the code in this is to retain some level of political accountability through the participating cities or jurisdictions. And they're violating that here. And also, where there's another related argument to that, because where the code does allow a transportation district like VIA to enter into local agreements with participating cities for certain things. But usually when it does that, an election is required to approve it, right? So VIA does have a certain level of authority you can look at it as two ways. I believe the proper way to read the statute is to say, it just flat prohibits the city from punting its money back to VIA, the 25% increase. But even if that were allowed, it also, from VIA's standpoint, it should require an election for, even if VIA is allowed to enter this agreement to accept the funds, an election should be required to approve it. And then on top of that, you have another actually constitutional issue, because the Texas Constitution makes the governing body of the city, it dictates that the governing body of the city is obviously in control of the city's finances and, you know, all city policy. And this is just general language in the Constitution, just, you know, it's very general, but it's been construed in cases to mean that because the discretion to disperse the city's funds is vested in the city council cannot delegate the authority to do that to another body. So this is a completely separate argument, separate from the transportation code, but it would complement the argument here. And there's an interesting case I found from, from about 100 years ago, where a court held that the city of Houston had improperly, even with something as benign as deciding like which intersection you're gonna put a new street light at. The city had delegated that authority to this company that was building a company town in a portion of the city of Houston, and the residents or somebody challenged it, and the court actually said, you know, even this kind of innocuous kind of thing, which is almost de minimis expenditure for a single street light or intersection, they said it was illegal for the city council had to decide, even though it had the complete discretion to decide where to put that, you know, facility. The city council had to make the decision. They couldn't delegate it to an outside body. And I believe that principle applies exactly here as well. And that's actually, that's an argument that derives from the Texas Constitution, and also the city of San Antonio's own charter. So, and it's something, you know, this occurred to me as you were speaking, Patrick. I did a little mental math that I hadn't done before. Well, I should say this: the city itself has said in its official filings and statements on the record when they were making this agreement with VIA, they themselves said that this portion of funding that they're punting back to VIA is critical to the success of the entire project. And even though it's only, you know, it sounds kind of small when you talk about 1/8 of the 1%, you know, sales tax. Actually, I think if what you're saying is the 1/8 of 1% is $54 million, that's only going to grow with time. That means that we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 million. So one quarter of that would be what we're talking about, $15 million a year. That is about, it's 1/12 of the entire funding for this project from the sales tax. So that's something on the order of maybe 8% or so of the entire project funding from the sales tax at least. So it's actually a pretty substantial portion. So it makes sense for them to say, if they can't transfer this money to VIA, that may kill the entire project. I mean, that's what they've said. When they were pushing to approve, when they were pushing city council, you know, to sign this agreement, that's a representation that they made. So if we can get a court to declare this illegal, and a taxpayer lawsuit, then potentially it stops the entire project. But at least the court order would prohibit their plan for spending 8% of the revenue from the sales tax in the way that they plan. But the idea would be to stop the whole project. And I think, I'm not sure if Mike has some comments too, but I'm happy to take questions before or afterwards. Do you want to talk? You got something to add, or should we just go to questions?
Do you wanna go to Q&A now, or do you want me to get up
Yeah,
there?
go ahead and ask questions, and you get up there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that's, I'll just leave it there and open it up if anybody has any questions. The idea would be, so this would be a taxpayer lawsuit. Anybody, because we're in Texas law, you have standing, any taxpayer has the right to go to court and challenge an illegal expenditure of tax funds. So anybody who pays the San Antonio sales tax would be eligible to sue the city to raise this issue. Yes, sir.
How much traction will this get if it's presented to the media, or if there's a press release getting out to the local media outlets as in KENS 5, KSAT, and News 4.
Well, I mean, I think at the point in which the lawsuit is filed, then a lot of more people, you generate a lot more interest. Generally, there's sort of a, once somebody actually has some skin in the game and like people see there's somebody actually taking action, then I think more people are likely to pay attention to it, like jump on board. Yeah. So I think a press release and, media outreach when we file a suit could be very helpful.
Jared, in your legal opinion, is there anything else that can be done to stop the project and the waste of taxpayer money?
I mean, in my experience, and most of what I do is sue government agencies to, challenge unconstitutional laws or illegal spending, etc. Usually it takes a lawsuit before anybody pays attention on the other side.
What is the cost of the lawsuit?
So, well, Patrick has some specific thoughts on that, and he can explain. Maybe I'll let you explain like you did earlier.
Okay, so good question. I'm gonna scroll. This is Jared's letter to the Attorney General that I was going through. I just got moving it up so y'all can read it. But everybody who RSVP'd for this meeting, we'll send you a copy of the letter so you can read it on your
Copy of
own.
all the slides.
All these slides, yeah.
Right.
And then as a summary here, Jared covered most of that. Did you cover the charter violation?
Yeah.
We'll cover, okay. And, but this is in a nutshell what we're looking at. So this is not our first rodeo. This is be the 5th time that we've been involved in the city of San Antonio. And most of the time, based on our experience, what's happened is that it's, give you an example with the Chick-fil-A lawsuit, where they banned Chick-fil-A from San Antonio Airport, and we filed a lawsuit against them, and it had to go to the Texas Supreme Court. It cost $100,000. So the lawsuit we're currently in against the city of San Antonio over the illegal use of taxpayer money for abortion trafficking, we're waiting for a decision for the 4th Court of Appeals, and we're right at $65,000 in legal expenditures. We're expected to be right about $100,000 by the time the Texas Supreme Court makes its ruling, which we are praying and are confident that they'll rule correctly. And so we expect this lawsuit to cost right about $100,000. And so we've already paid, just for some numbers, we've already paid Jared's law firm $16,000. And between the legal opinion and all the other work that's been done, legal research and everything, to get to this point, it started out with an original retainer need of $50,000 to file the lawsuit, counting into the fact that we've already paid $16,000. So really we need $34,000 to move forward. And the sooner the better. Like I said, we're on a time clock. They use shovels to turn dirt and have an official groundbreaking ceremony for marketing, but most importantly, we believe for a legal maneuver. So time is of the essence for us to do it. Who can contribute? Business owners, property owners, residents, any concerned individual. We had some business owners along San Pedro here earlier in our presentation today, and we do have some commitments. We have a $5,000 commitment by one business owner, a $1,000 commitment by another business owner. We collected $2,000 from the earlier meeting, and then another business owner on San Pedro committed $10,000 if 2 other business owners committed $10,000 each. So obviously $34,000 is not going to get us to where we need to go, but that'll get us moving forward. And what I tell my children is activity breeds activity. Meaning if you're looking for a job, and they're all looking for jobs, my 4 oldest are all looking for jobs, well, 3 of the 4, and going and doing job interviews will breed a job opportunity that they want just by having the activity. And so when we go official with the lawsuit, people will get more interested, we will get their attention. It'll be the best thing to see the reaction by the former mayor, the current mayor, and city council, who all are in support of this, to say, wait, not everybody's for this? And no, most people, once they understand the details, which were not given at the beginning when they had the election, November 3rd, 2020, the details were not there. It was just conceptual. But that's what we need to start and move forward. And then, so we're a third of the way there with the commitments we have, because the one $10 commitment is contingent on 2 other business owners stepping up. Could everybody in here give something? Yes, anything will help. But obviously, we need to get to that number to move forward, and we've put in a lot of money already. We continue to absorb some expenses there, but if you want, this is the last ditch effort. All the time for going to city council, for commenting on SA Speak Up, for doing anything in regards to communicating with elected officials, it's all done. Can you still do it? Yes. Are we still talking? We had two of Chip Roy, Congressman Chip Roy's staffers in here earlier. We had a couple of state rep staffers in here earlier. We're talking to all levels of government, including DOJ and including the current presidential administration, trying to get the money recalled from the federal government. That would help delay or stop the project as well. So, reason we've taken so long to get here is because we've exhausted every other method to avoid a lawsuit. And that's sort of the point we're at. So we've been 2 years in this process, more than 2 years in this process of fighting this. And I already showed you we fought it from the election itself. So this is the last ditch effort. We didn't come to this over lightly. We didn't come to this because we wanted to. We're now in a situation where we're forced to be here. And this is the only way to stop it if you're concerned about the fundamental changes to San Pedro Avenue that will impact everyday life from the business owners and the property owners around there. Mike had a good comment. I want him to come up here and share. You might have some more questions, and Jared can certainly get back up here. But how many people know what the operating costs are for VIA? Anybody? Well, Mike's going to give you the numbers.
Danny's actually gonna give it to me. Anyone hear of, Project Marvel? Heard of Project Marvel, anyone?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty exciting?
It's marvelous.
No? Divisive? Divisive?
It's
No
marvelous.
details.
It's what?
They don't have enough numbers.
Not enough numbers, okay, so what's the cost? Anybody know the cost?
Taxpayers, $254 million.
Well, the total cost for the arena part is 1.2 to 1.3 million dollars.
Yeah.
1.2 to 1.3 million dollars.
Billion.
Billion, excuse me. This may or may not surprise you. You are looking at the green line and the silver line combined. $780 million, just under $1 billion. And so all you hear about is the Marvel, you hear about all this stuff. Oh, we can't do that. Yet they're right under our noses. VIA is doing this for 2 lines. Patrick, how many lines did you say there were?
7.
7 lines. The beginning of 7 lines. So you picked on the Red Raider. So the Aggie, would you tell us, on average, if that's 800,000, so it's $400 million per line times 7 is what?
21.
There you go. 28, I think.
28. Easy. I was trying to be low for the city's sake.
So it's 2.8 billion. 2.8 billion right here. And we're talking about Marvel at 1.2 to 1.3 billion. Here's 2.8 billion, and nobody's talking about it. Do you see the urgency here? People don't realize what we're talking about here. That's incredible what's going on. We have got to stop this. And in the Marvel, they've already said Spurs will pay a little bit, or then we'll get all this kind of stuff, right? Here, it's all on us. And by the way, if you don't know, it's in the finance here, but if you don't know, operational expenses are horrendous. So I haven't got into that. We're talking about capital expenditure just to get the thing going, right? Annual operational expenses are incredible. Okay, what I've handed out here is their finance. I literally printed it this morning. We did not have 2024, so sometime between about a month ago and now, 2024 came in. If you look at the bottom, taxpayers subsidized at that percentage. We, you, me, subsidized. I'm glad you're sitting down, Flora. 97% of the total expenses are subsidized out of your pocket and my pocket.
And I don't use the bus.
And you don't use the bus. Last year it was 102%. 102%. How do you do that? Somebody made a mistake. I mean, how do you do 102%? Here's the accountant.
Didn't you have 3 years ago was 92%?
No, actually, the numbers came in different. I know, it used to be like 92, but it's 77. It actually was fairly reasonable. Everyone expects to subsidize a community pool. Everybody accepts the fact that you subsidize a library. Everybody accepts these things, okay? It's the cost of a great community, right? But when you take VIA, who has the terrible reputation of putting a $40 million skeleton out there on 281 they call park and ride, and nobody's ever parked or nor ridden, and we see we're subsidizing this to 100% in some cases, and you're coming to us, city, VIA, coming to us and saying, and now we want to quadruple the expenses, and we want to grow this. And the answer is, they're not growing anything. The only thing they're growing is they're putting their hands in our pocket. It's the only thing they're doing. And we've got to wake up, and we got to make certain people understand this. 2.8 billion versus the marvel of 1.2 billion. Anyone here ever hear of Port Authority in New York and New Jersey? You ever hear that? Port Authority. Well, just so you know, it's the first bi-state agency in the United States. It was done in 1921. It was passed by Congress to make it happen. And the whole idea was to take care of transportation mainly, and some other infrastructure. The regional transportation, they did the port facilities, the bridges, the tunnels, the airports, you name it. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey does not levy any taxes. Does not. Prohibited. Does. New York, Jersey, does not. It is a financially self-supporting entity, and it is not allowed to levy any taxes whatsoever. San Antonio's double dipping. They're doing this, and they're doing this. And that is probably the oldest, entity like that in the United States. And so the whole point is that we did not have this meeting downtown today. Why? Why didn't we have this downtown? It's a nice facility, by the way. Could have had this downtown, right? No one showed up. Why wouldn't they show up?
Too far.
Too far, inconvenient, construction, one-way joke streets, trying to get over here, and you gotta go through 3 one-ways to get there, right? Parking, always, right? Get chances of getting mugged, all kinds of things, okay? Welcome to San Pedro Avenue 20, 30, 40 years from now, because it'll be inconvenient. No one will want to go there. You can't take a left turn. You can almost get killed. I mean, the same thing is going to actually take place. And so all they're trying to do, and Patrick mentioned it, is that they want a dense community. Think of Gaza Strip. This is I always think of Gaza. Do you know the Frost building was supposed to be 10 stories higher? Did you know that?
Huh?
The Frost building, the new one, downtown, was supposed to be 10 stories higher. They chopped off 10 stories. It was a blueprint from Austin. It was the same kind of structure. City council didn't want that, took off 10 stories. Why? They wanted short, dense. They want Gaza Strip. That's the visual I get every time I think about it. Gaza Strip, nothing more than 5 stories and just, everywhere. And that's the whole idea behind the San Antonio city government. So, we are subsidizing to the point where only 3% is ridership. 3%.
2 and 2 is 4. Do you think Project Misery or Marvel, if they can put enough stuff downtown and force people to use buses to go to it, they can justify all that stuff?
Yes, and that's what they're trying to do.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
But yes and no.
Huh?
Because you also have, you have buses right now that go straight downtown.
Right.
You don't have to go and stop
Well, you have to.
all the way down.
That's
San
what
Pedro.
Yeah, I mean, so, back to what Patrick said, this is how much per mile? What,
32 million per mile.
32 million per mile. We can do it right now. We just add more buses and we can do it for a $32 million capital expenditure. So yes, that is a possibility. By the way, in that Marvel, there's more to the Marvel than just the Marvel auditorium or the sport complex itself. There's the expansion of the, which has already taken place, the expansion of the convention center, the expansion, is gonna be another hotel there. So a lot of this stuff is played up that was already, you know, in the books to be built. And all they did is they connected it all, they called it the Marvel.
I'm questioning what are the main, type of revenue created along San Pedro, like the businesses, what type of businesses are up and down there right now? Because if they're gonna be putting that, like, it's obviously not gonna be shopping, cause I fill out my trunk, I'm not gonna carry all that stuff on the bus. So I'm like, is it, are they gonna?
Yeah, they're small businesses, and listen, I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because back to Port Authority, Port Authority is owned for two major, real estate pieces. You know what they are? The Twin Towers. That's Port Authority. So Port Authority got off on their mission, right? They were, I just read it to you, ports, tunnels, tolls, whatever the case. They got off their mission and they diversified and they went into real estate. Of course, they went down. That we believe is what VIA is trying to do. So they have the right to, is it a quarter mile or a quarter mile on each side? Okay, so Florida,
Up to.
up to a quarter mile on each side, they have the ability to develop. So if you, gentrification, your taxes you can't afford it, you defer the taxes, whatever the case might be, and somebody inherits your house, okay? You have, you know, $100,000 in back taxes, they don't know what to do. And so they call the city, say, you owe $100,000, we have to take it from you if you don't do something about it. But you know what, to your heir, we'll buy it from you. Oh, you will? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, what are you gonna give me for it? And they'll give me 80, 70% of the market value, whatever. But don't worry about it. We'll erase all those back taxes and what have you. And what they'll do is they'll grab houses like that. It's gonna be a land grab. They grab houses like that, stack 2 or 3 houses together, scrape the earth, and put up, you know, 12 apartments or whatever, mini apartments or sixplex or whatever the case might be. That's what we believe is their long-term plan, because we are landlocked. They have no other way of getting revenue.
So is that being said, then you think they're basically gonna try to kill all the businesses along that San Pedro and have it diversified?
Well, we had restaurant owners here, Flora knows this better, Danny knows this, I don't know if you live around that area, I guess. So you guys know that.
I live off of San Pedro, right next to Tommy's. There's lots of
Yes,
restaurants
that's
up and down San Pedro.
Correct.
There's lots of car dealerships, small businesses, but there's nothing really big that has like
Yeah.
150 employees,
Right.
right?
So it's small businesses,
Oh,
all,
yeah.
that's what I was.
And here's the kicker is, can you imagine having one of those automobile dealerships in a San Pedro that's being shut down with autos?
With no left
I don't know how they're
turns,
gonna
no
make it.
left turns if you have to deliver a
Right,
car.
right. So any questions to Patrick, myself, Danny? Danny, do you have anything to say?
But
There's a microphone.
I lived off of San Pedro. I've lived here all my life, and it's really unfortunate that the city is kind of put distancing themselves from any accountability. They don't, gone to lots of meetings, they don't wanna hear, they don't wanna write anything down, they don't take notes, they don't really care what you think. And I asked, you know, if 90% of the people didn't want this, what would you do? And they said, we're still gonna do it,
Yeah.
right? So they really don't care. And so that kind of pressured me into getting a petition and wanting to get a petition done. And but the problem is the city of San Antonio has made it impossible to have a referendum. So there's no way to have a referendum in San Antonio right now. What we have to do is we have to change the charter of the city to have a referendum. And we also have a petition to change the language so that they can't do exactly what they're doing right now. But we can't have another charter amendment to the city for another 2 years. So it won't be until 2027 till we can even vote on a charter amendment. So there's really nothing that we can do right now except for to sue them and to stop this. And the petition will come, and we will get a chance to vote on this again, but there's nothing we can do right now, and it's far off. 27 before we can even vote on a petition. So I really encourage, I think we need to do this as a community, as individuals, and we just need to, you know, every little bit that is gonna help. And it's gonna help the businesses, it's gonna help the community, it's gonna help the neighbors, because, like I said, this is not gonna be good for anybody up and down San Pedro.
Is that what they're delaying, fixing our streets and our sidewalks, so they can, I live close to San Pedro, and I have a hard time getting there to fix my sidewalks.
Where they're going, there's no need for streets and sidewalks.
I don't ride the bus,
Part of the capital improvements in this, they do have in there improvements for drainage and sidewalks. That's part of the capital cost in what they're planning on doing, bringing everything up to ADA compliance, which are 5-foot sidewalks and everything. So there's a cost to doing that, and it is part of their plan is to improve and to either build or improve the sidewalks drainage as they go along with that. Yes,
My
ma'am.
other question is about these, buildings that they're putting people in. I was out in Houston, and they were building what's called 7-minute cities. And I had asked the same questions, what they feel like they're gonna do with felons. Cause in the city here in San Antonio, if you look at your conviction rates, and I believe in Texas, 1 in every 3 is a felon. So in those cities, you can't even live in those buildings, and I know right now we have a lot of crime, and like, I guess they're gonna move the Haven for Hope over near Tetzel, or like, what are their plans for that type of, cause you can't put them in the same buildings.
I don't know the answer to that, Susan, but certainly, that's a concern. I hadn't heard of 7-minute cities. I've heard of 15-minute cities
Yeah,
before.
they want everything 7 minutes.
And certainly both are concerning because they both are trying to restrict your freedom to move about, which is what we addressed first in this presentation was, what are your rights? And obviously, when you commit a felony and you're convicted, you give up those rights. And there's restrictions on what you can and can't do anymore. And so, from that standpoint, what you don't wanna have that happen is impede on other people's rights that have abided by the law and comply and have their freedom. But what you are looking at is a timeline, because they've broken ground as of the 13th of June. We're on a short timeline, and I wanna show you real quick, go back to the summary. I know we had somebody just come in just to show you the summary of Jared's letter to the Attorney General, talking about the illegalities of the funding by the city of San Antonio to VIA. So another example of this, just to give you an analogy, is that, how many people have heard of the Starbright Agreement? Starbright Agreement was created actually by a former city councilman before he was a city councilman, acting as an attorney for Toyota. And Toyota, they got an unofficial agreement by the city of San Antonio to be in charge of the zoning within a 3-mile radius of the factory. And what that's called is corporate zoning. We're all familiar with corporate practice of medicine, and in Texas that's been prohibited for centuries. The corporate practice of medicine, it did change with the Maverick County Hospital District in Maverick County where Eagle Pass is, the poorest county in the state of Texas, according to numbers. And they allow, for corporate practice of medicine, they allow the county hospital district to start employing physicians. And so some of that's changed, but the corporate practice of medicine has been prohibited in Texas. Corporate zoning is illegal in the state of Texas, but yet the city of San Antonio allowed Toyota to dominate the zoning within the 3-mile radius of that factory. What we have here is a form of that in the sense that that zoning of what's going on there is being outsourced to VIA, which has an unelected board, which Jared addressed. So the elected officials are with the city of San Antonio. The city of San Antonio does have influence and some control, although limited, over the VIA board because it makes appointments to the VIA board, but nobody's elected. And so therefore you have that violation. Did you address, I think I asked you before, did you address the charter provision that they're breaking the charter in that? Come back, this is the summary of the letter, and just wanted you to be able to read it. For everybody that RSVP for this, we'll send this out to you so you can have it. But I want to make sure that Danny addressed the charter and the fact that on November of last year, 6 charter amendments were passed, including increased terms from 2 years to 4 years for city councilmen. But if one of those had passed, only one, not all 6 had passed, then you cannot, by the charter itself, you cannot have another charter amendment for 2 years. So the city is now, likes to be in compliance when it suits them, and when it doesn't suit them, they just don't talk about it. And here's another case if you didn't hear, but the city's actually violated its own charter. I'm not sure I heard it, but it might have been just me, but I would like you to go over that one more time.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in the context of, because it's not just the city's own charter, but it's also derives from the Texas Constitution actually, which, because the Constitution says that the governing body of each municipality basically, decides policy for the city, including the financial policy. So the power to disperse city funding is vested by the Constitution in the city council, and there's a related legal principle that because of that, the Constitution prohibits the city council from delegating its authority to make discretionary decisions to an outside body. So it's a non-delegation principle. You have the same thing in the federal system, and so it's a constitutional principle. And that's exactly what San Antonio has done through this interlocal agreement we want to challenge. They've taken this $15+ million a year that they're supposed to spend in its own discretion within the city, and they're punting it back to VIA for the unelected members of the board of VIA to decide how to spend it. And that would enable VIA also, not only would it put the discretion in VIA's hands, but also it would allow thereby VIA to spend the money outside of the city of San Antonio, which may mean, there's numerous municipalities along the line, Alamo Heights, Castle Hills, several others, that would potentially, where VIA could spend the money on these projects that is not actually within the city of San Antonio. Even though it's circumscribed in the city limits, it's a separate jurisdiction, and they have their own taxes, etc. But it's, so they're basically taking your tax money and spending it in other jurisdictions. Potentially, that's what this plan allows.
I have a question. So from what I hear is, who is in charge of San Antonio then? If the city council members did not make the decisions and they are passing the rights to the third party government, who is in charge of San Antonio?
They're passing their discretion to spend tax dollars to an unelected body, and to sort of accentuate a point that's been made throughout by Patrick, I think this is really, this is an ideological project, in the sense that, there's no, the idea is to get people out of their cars and control how they move around the city. There's no demand for this. They're trying to create a demand because there's no, like everybody has said, there's no demand along the Green Line for this, but that's where they want to start, right in the middle of the city. There's no place to park and ride except for the one place that's been mentioned that's nobody used. In order for this to be feasible at all, they have to create the demand by the infill, by building the park and ride locations or parking garages along the line somewhere, and expecting people to change their entire lifestyle. And that's really what it is. It's a leftist ideological long-term plan to change how people drive and get people out of their cars and end the petroleum economy.
Smart cities.
Yeah, same thing with the 15-minute and 7-minute cities in Houston. It's all the same. And by the way, in Houston, we do have some experience with the bus rapid transit and the light rail, and they're both useless. They both are deep in the red since they started, and the city just doesn't care. They're throwing good money after bad. The plan is to try to just force everybody to.
And they will never pull the plug on it.
No, they built this exact kind of bus rapid transit system through the Galleria recently, and I don't know the numbers offhand. I'm sure it'd be interesting to look, but just from my, own eyeballs seeing it, nobody rides it, and it's a disaster. They took productive lanes of traffic right in that, area of the city and just transformed them into this center lane for buses, which messes up the traffic flow and it takes longer to get where you wanna go. The turning lane is all messed up, it's terrible. And so far, that hasn't been expanded. And I doubt it will be because it's just, nobody rides it.
Any legal questions or anything that Jared can answer?
On the petition, I had a question, so I live in Valley Ranch, so I'm technically outside of the city, but I'm still in Bear County. I can't vote I couldn't vote in the mayoral election. Can I still sign this petition, or does it have to be someone within, I know he said it already, but I didn't catch it.
What, are you circulating?
Well, we're not doing a petition right now, we're focused on this.
Okay.
And sometime before 2027, we're gonna have these, petitions and but it's not gonna stop this from happening.
Okay.
It might stop maybe one of the other lines, because it would be too late.
But for me to participate in these things, since technically I'm outside of the city limits, but yet still in Bear County.
And unfortunately, I think with those, you have to be a voter in Bear County.
That's what I thought.
I will announce how you can participate in just a few minutes.
Any more questions, legal questions?
Is there,
He's got one.
Sorry for coming late, but, if you're saying there's nothing we can do because the ship's already sailed, is that really how it is?
Yeah.
There's nothing,
Nothing to do other than sue them.
okay,
That's where we're at, and that's where we're at right now.
okay. So there's just because, I think you said they had not broken ground yet, or they literally just started?
they had a groundbreaking ceremony in which they ceremonially took some shovels, turned some dirt.
Yeah, but nothing
Nothing
else.
has been done
Yeah,
yet.
so there could be some sort of injunction.
The significant amount of money doesn't start until January 1, 2026.
Okay.
When the 1/8 sales tax is going to ready to work right now, shifts over to the Advanced Transportation Districts, already receiving double that, and so you add the 1/8 and you're out 3/8, and that amounts 1/8 of cent sales tax revenue in the city of San Antonio ends up being about $54 million right now, and it's going to go up as population goes up because of the spending.
Yeah.
But right now it's about 54 million. So when that January 1, 2026 gets here, you got 54 million times 3 that'll be going, and we're talking about, and that's when they really will break ground. So we're in a window of time right now that if we're gonna stop them, and they broke ground, they had an official groundbreaking ceremony on June 13th, and turning dirt, that we need to move before they start. And so it's very time sensitive from that standpoint. But to answer your question, Walden, we started on this, as soon as they announced it, we came out against it because of it was big on creativity, lots of ideas, but no details. And as the details have become apparent, because they've been forced to do it, when people voted on it, there was no details. But when they voted, they passed it. People are trained to do that and vote for these things. It sounds good, it's virtue signaling, and certainly we want to, Mike mentioned it before, but yeah, Market of a Good City is helping people move about and transport, but there's a limit to that, right, in good governance. In this case, they're going to change the VIA bus system already, where we're spending more than 90% subsidized, and we're going to increase that. They say the ridership is going to increase by 10% of their numbers. All this money for 10% increase in ridership.
Which is already low.
You know, which is already low.
The buses they're at a tipping point at 40% capacity right now.
Right, they do say that they're right, 38% capacity,
Yeah.
something like that.
That's their tipping point, and that's where they feel like that they have to do something different.
Right, and so instead of just increasing bus routes now, using existing lanes, everything, they have to take up 2 to 3 of the now lanes for individual motorists to then take them over for government public transportation. But, so we've been through that, we have identified this early, came out against this early. We've been to city council, we've done everything we can to contact the mayor, city council, encouraging them to not do this. and they've continued anyway. So we're at the point where we've exhausted all the means of administrative, legislative means to stop this. They're not listening, they're going through with it. Every one of the city council members previously have been for it, and now there's only one that is not for it now under the new elected officials, but this will not stop it. They intend to do this. This goes back to an overall plan. Everybody's heard of probably SA Tomorrow. SA Tomorrow was passed back in the 2000s with SA 2020 that Mayor Castro put in plan. This is all a project that in vision ideology that's come in to control what you're doing, to take you out of your vehicles, to plan the city. And then in 2018, a climate action adaptation plan was passed to save the environment and to remove all reliable coal power producing plants where we suffered and froze, and some people froze to death in February, the snowmageddon in February 2021, because we had coal power plants offline that could have been used, and yet people froze because we couldn't keep up with the demands to bear the freeze. So all this goes in, and in that same 2018 climate action adaptation plan, the policy says that as of 2040, no internal combustion engines will be allowed downtown San Antonio. So this goes right along with their plan to put you in a bus so you can't drive downtown, and their focus is downtown San Antonio. As we see that, and Mike alluded to it, there's construction everywhere. And it's very difficult to get around. We even saw when the Final Four was just here in March, that with March Madness concluding, that there was a street that they actually were under construction. They spent over $1 million to pave it over so it looked good. They still kept it blocked off. You couldn't drive across it. Still had barricades. Nobody would use it. So when the March Madness, when Final Four was over, they came and took off all the asphalt, had to take out all the dirt they did, and are still under construction. So we see where the bad planning continues in here, and with problems within the Development Services Department, that where nothing is getting approved on a timely fashion. You would think we're in Little Mexico because of the bribes and everything else that are required to get your plans approved by business owners and developers to go forward. So they're going to eliminate that with this as far as goes to traffic, is their attempt. Just so you know, in the scope expansion of VIA, where they're developing businesses and they're developing apartments, multifamily units. The state of Texas just passed the last legislative session where it removed some of the zoning aspect of the city of San Antonio. The city of San Antonio did fight this, but a law was passed, a bill was passed and signed into law by Governor Abbott that any commercially zoned property can be used to build affordable housing or multifamily dwellings on it. So they removed that out of the city of San Antonio, but that frees it up that if VIA buys property because it become gentrified, that and people who inherit it cannot afford it, and they do it, they can get zoning change. Obviously that's residential, right? They'd have to get the zoning change. Once they get the zoning change to commercial, they can build multifamily housing on it. That all goes back to the infill and the density that San Antonio needs to continue its projected revenue growth that it needs. We have already seen became very apparent in the runoff particularly, that the current budget as it is $138 million in deficit, and that means we're in the red, $138 million. City of San Antonio has to have a balanced budget, and so we're already in the revenue shortfall, and we're seeing that in regards to we're not getting the police on the street that we need for public safety. So instead, we're using money here to do this. So we are to answer your question briefly, after the long-winded answer is, we've exhausted all of the methods. If we really care about what happens to San Pedro and therefore the other 6 lines that come in the other 6 streets, then we have to act now to do this. We are working at every level of government, from DOJ and the new administration to state and to stop this. But we have not gotten, we did have a conference call with the Attorney General's office late last week, and but we don't know what's going to happen there. We can keep asking, and in the meantime, we have to control what we can control, right? And all we can control right now is how we act. So we are back at the point where Jack mentioned that I'll share with you what you can do. You do have a sheet in front of you, what you can do right now. Obviously pray for life, liberty, and property, and people's rights to be protected. And then, otherwise, it's too late to do the other things, other than you can still email and call the mayor and city council, but it's not gonna do you good. None of those issues are coming up. The Marvel issue's coming up. The other thing that's coming up that you need to know about, VIA knows it needs money. It can't afford the operational costs that are gonna increase after this is done. And those operational costs, as we see, are exceeding what they're taking in, not only just from the fair, but from their own budget, from the ridership. But they are gonna be proposing to the city council to enact a tax on your mobile phone bills. That'll be coming up before city council here shortly. And according to VIA and the conversations that we've had with them, that was already passed by the legislature in the 80s. And it's just never been enacted. But now VIA knows that it needs the money. They're going to city council already to ask for that to be put on your mobile phone bill. Yes, sir.
How can we fight that? Because that's one of the things I ran on as a city council candidate, was that I told everybody out there that if you have $100 city a mobile phone bill, VIA will come after them. I think put like add 8 cents or something like that to it.
Yeah, well, what we can do is what we did here is when it comes up, you can go, when it comes on the agenda, you can go to saspeakup.com, register to speak at city council and testify against it. You can leave a comment publicly, and you should do that. That's, again, something we can control. Will it be effective? Remains to be seen, but it hasn't necessarily been in the past. There will be an opportunity to do that and to contact, call, and email the mayor and city council members. Certainly do that, and we certainly need to do that. We have that information on our website as well as our social media, and so you would certainly do that. But again, that'll be a separate issue that will probably fall somewhere between 10 to 2, most likely in the vote that will happen there, and that it will still pass. But the other is joining our work to stop the VIA monster. There is a sheet on there. You can leave your information, and it says petition on it, but it's really not. It's just for us to collect your information, how you'd like to help. Consider contributing to legal efforts to stop these illegal funding actions by the city of San Antonio, giving and transferring the money to VIA, and then also helping spread the word. You know, they all have social media accounts probably for the most part, save 1 or 2 in here, and so do that. Talk to people. As I said, if you RSVP for this, I'll send you this information, and you can use it to share with other people and spread the word. If we're going to do anything, now is the time.
Just a comment on that. You can even spread the word anymore.
Can't do. I'm sorry. Say that again.
You can even spread the word anymore on social media. I usually try to raise questions regarding what is happening. You cannot do that anymore.
Sure,
They shut it down.
we've all been shadow banned or fenced in, to some degree.
So locally or Facebook, I mean, we can't even talk about anything anymore.
So, I'll
we
go
have
back.
big problems.
Yes, that's correct. So my question is, how much is it worth to you to be able to drive down San Pedro Avenue and then the other 6 streets where you're not impacted by dedicated bus lanes? You have freedom to move. We have public safety, fire and police, who are not going to be impeded on their response times because of dedicated lanes and curbs that might or might not exist because those details have not come out. And how much does it work to you to be able to frequent the businesses, to get your home in and out? And especially if we had a situation, we experienced a flood here in San Antonio just before the flash floods in the Hill Country, where 7 people died over in 410 in Parambital area.
It was 13.
And 13 is known, and very tragic, very sad. But there are residents along San Pedro Avenue that can get closed in. And if you didn't know, the dam that's on 281, that we all see when we drive down 281, that can break, that can be overflowed. And where does that water go? It goes right into that area, right towards San Pedro Avenue, is where all that water will go. And so we're talking about a situation where, because of that, people might be blocked in, and their freedom to move about and escape in an emergency situation could be impacted. So how much is it worth to you? Is it worth $100? Is it worth $1,000? We understand this becomes another indirect tax to us because we as citizens have to respond. But is it worth it to respond to save taxpayers and business owners their business, and the cost on money to us, becomes much more profitable to the city individuals and collectively as a community to move forward and to stop this. And so this is what's needed and where it is. Again, we needed a $50,000 retainer. We already paid $16,000 towards that. These are the $34,000. And again, we collected $2,000 from the previous meeting. We have a business owner on San Pedro that's given $5,000. Another one that's committed a pledge that if 2 other business owners are collectively, we come up with $10,000 to match it. 2 other entities come up, or a collection of entities come up with $10,000. That business owner will match that for $10,000. So take that into account. That's 7 and 10. That's $17,000. We're halfway there. So all we need to do is raise an additional $17,000. We can file the lawsuit and move forward. And time is of the essence. Like I said, we need to do it as sooner than later. Y'all have any other comments? How great it will be to see the shock on the current mayor, the former mayor, and city council and via personnel to say, wow, actually somebody is going to challenge us and contest us on this. We didn't think it would happen.
Would you tell everyone how executives from the city are just
Oh,
walking across the street?
Yeah. So there's 17 former highly paid City of San Antonio employees that are now working at VIA,
Oh my God.
including the former director of Development Services Department is now working there. The same Development Services Department that has been involved in a previous legal action by us in 2015, 10 years ago, where we had to sue the city over 5 zoning violations that particular director was overseeing and made sure that those violations were broke over another ideological situation. And so we see they're moving to where the money's going. And the money starts flowing on January 1, 2026, in just a couple months. We didn't think this would fly by so fast, but it has. That's where it's left us today. So Jared has to drive back to Houston just to get back with his wife and children. Got a last minute opportunity to ask him any questions or anything on the situation.
And I'll say, while people think, if you have a question, if something occurs to you later that you wanna ask, that should be directed to me, because I do have to get out. My wife is struggling at home with 2 under 2, so I don't wanna leave her there too long. But, you know, you can get a question to Patrick and he can get it to me. I'm happy to continue the conversation. But if anybody has a question right now, I can try to address it. I will say, you know, but like I said at the beginning, most of my cases are cases against government entities from cities, large and small, to all the way up to the federal government, federal agencies. I've successfully sued the Federal Election Commission and the FDA several times. So, you know, and I will say, like, in all that experience, it's amazing what you fish out, and it just takes somebody with the guts to file a lawsuit, but it does take going. They brush you off all day long. They don't care, you know, they don't care unless you actually go to court where you have some authority to challenge them, where you have the ability to put people under oath to answer questions. For the arguments we have outlined here, we don't need any of that, which is one reason I know it can go fast. These are purely legal arguments, but there could be, one of the women at the other presentation earlier today raised another potential avenue of act that would be more complicated and would, you know, might require some documents from the city and stuff, and peeling back behind some of the layers of this plan. And, you know, so there could be other ways to attack it, which could involve depositions and going at them. But one of the beautiful things about the issues we've already identified is that these are legal issues. I don't need to rely on any discovery. It's just a straight up matter of what does the statute say and asking the court to interpret it. Is the city allowed to take this money that's statutorily directed to them and punt it without any political accountability to VIA?
There's nothing there's no legal way to stop them from doing that?
Well, that's what we're talking about. What I'm saying is that this is a purely legal argument. argument, I don't need to get anybody's testimony to like catch anybody in a trap. I just, all the information I need is already in the public record. And so I can go to court tomorrow if we had the funds, you know, we're ready to say go, and just, you know, I just need to get it before a judge. So, and, you know, like I said, once we get into it and get more interest, there could be additional arguments we add where we might uncover additional things, about how they zone things illegally or whatever. Yes, sir.
Depending on how much we donate in this room today for this cause, how soon can you file for this suit?
If I had to go ahead right now, it would be probably 2 weeks to get the lawsuit actually filed. You know, if all systems go, like, it'll take a few weeks probably to get the green light, so we're probably looking at, but I told Patrick, I think within a month is certainly feasible if we get, you know, the funds.
We're looking prior to Labor Day, so we're,
Yeah.
to answer your question.
Yeah, and then it would be a few weeks, a month or two after that to go to a hearing and go from there.
For to address your question, in 2015, 10 years ago, when we filed our first lawsuit against the city of San Antonio over the illegal zoning of Planned Parenthood South Texas New Ambulatory Surgery Center, we had depositions. There's a lot more cost involved when you have to do depositions, especially if you video record them, the costs go way up. So what Jared's saying is, because of the structure of the law, it's very cut and dry, that we don't need those. It'll save us money in that regards. It'll save us time in that regards. And so it's very much cut and dry. The legalese is there, that they're in violation and illegally funding via in the way they're doing it. So it's actually a much better case from that standpoint because depositions are not needed. Does that make sense?
Not a lot of witnesses.
Lower cost, smaller amount of time, and we can get there faster. Does that make sense?
Good luck.
Okay. Well, now good luck to us, because we're all in this together. We're gonna do it. So let's close. Yep.
Who do we make our checks out to?
Thank you, Jack. We'll do it. We have several different entities, but in this case, we'll be making it safe for our San Antonio Family Association, which is a 501c3 nonprofit educational and charitable organization. So your donations for this, and you can write on there what it's for, are tax deductible as well. So you can that'll help with the tax burden from that standpoint. And being that this is we're taking on an indirect tax to fight our own government against our own tax dollars. And so at least you can get a tax deduction for doing that, participating. And so let's close with a prayer asking the one triune God to bless us, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our gracious Heavenly Father, God Almighty, grant us the wisdom to discover the right, the will to choose it, and the strength to make it endure. Amen. Amen. Thank you for your time and attention, and we greatly appreciate it. Please spread the word. I'll be sending you each this information so you can share it and learn it. And we'll look forward to your support and going forward. Thank you very much.
Can we get a copy of the letter that's going to the?
It'll all be included.
I'll be on the included?
Yes, ma'am. It'll all be included.
And you want us to leave this portion for you?
Yeah, if you're open to doing that, leave a page for us, and that way we'll have your information. We can share more updates.
You want us to go? Yeah. Call that.
I didn't get a chance to meet you. I'm Mike. That's good to meet you. Yes, sir. Yeah, they got this either the same thing or same as it's acronym. Yeah.
I have printer, can I make copies that we can make?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. I hope it was helpful. Unfortunately, it's good. It really sucks. You live right there. Which one? Oh, absolutely.